to Attitude Effort Results presented by Teamwork Online and the Clubhouse. I have a very special guest here with me. We are in person, which obviously is awesome to do. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're working through it. We actually are probably going to talk a little bit more towards that as one of your skills you think is actually working through adversity. We'll get to that. But as you guys can tell, we're both in very nice suits. The reason we're both in very nice suits, Josh is the CEO of Nick's Menswear. So I'm going to let him introduce himself further, and we're going to jump right into it today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tanner. Thanks for having me. So yeah, I am, as Tanner said, my name's Josh Fink. I am the co-owner and CEO of Nick's Menswear here in Arizona. We've got 5 brick and mortar locations in high traffic, busy shopping malls. My family's been in the business since 1962. My grandfather started suit stores in 1962. My father was in it. My uncle, who's now my partner, started Nick's Menswear in 2009, and I came on board a few years later. And we have really made a giant splash in the industry, really selling suits to people who aren't suit-wearing customers. So excited to, like I said, excited to be here. Excited to hopefully provide some value today.
I love it. You talk about not suit-wearing customers.
Yeah.
I work in a business where I have to wear a suit every day, and I'm still not a suit-wearing customer before. Yours actually, the first 2 custom suits that I ever had in my life were from you guys, and so obviously I have a lot of affinity towards you and your brand. But also today for the listeners, a little bit more about the mindset of a high-level individual who owns and runs a company like yourself. So tell me a little bit about the mindset of the customer is really what you want to do, is like, this is for you. Tell me a little bit about your mindset there.
Yeah. It doesn't have to do, what I do really has nothing to do with suits. At the end of the day, yes, there's a transaction, as we talked about. Yes, I am selling suits, but it doesn't matter if I was selling golf clubs like I used to or selling education like I used to. It's about providing value for the customer and being a trusted advisor and building this relationship. So really at the end of it, they're eating out of the palm of your hand, right? And again, I'm not forcing product down their throat. I'm maybe not even giving them what they want, but I'm having the conversation about what they need. And we do it in a way to where it's not pushy, it's not shovey, it's not with an agenda of dollars. It's just taking care of the customer. And at the end of the day, how I win is because of the experience that we give, right? Over 67% of our business tenders offer referrals. Other than the Suns partnership and the Cardinals partnership, we've never spent a dime on marketing. We grew 20% every year up until COVID, spending $0 on marketing, just taking care of the customer because the experience is that good that they have to tell a friend about us, right? And so it's not one customer, it's 12 customers off of one Tanner if we do what I'm talking about, which is selling without an agenda and creating value for the customer.
We talked about this a little bit earlier, and I love this theory of it where you're doing a lot of your business, 67% of your business, 2/3 of your business is off of referrals. However, you're not doing the typical sales referral where the typical sales referral, you're like, hey man, like, thanks for buying from me. Who do you know that, like, that's very salesy. Tell me your thought process there, because yours is way more in-depth than that. And I actually, without you telling me or without even realizing it until we had that conversation last week, do exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because my mom is in real estate, right? And she works for a large local real estate company. And they have seminars on asking for the referral. And and my mom is really good and she's really empathetic and she's really great with her clients. But I've never asked for a referral in my life, and I don't know what books say because I really don't. And another thing we didn't talk about is I don't read sales books. I should probably, but I don't. I just kind of had this gift about, I feel like, talking about superpowers, my superpower is service, is taking care of the customer without an agenda. So when somebody comes into our 5 locations, any of our 5 locations, we have a series of questions that we ask them, right? And keep in mind, this is a need customer, not a want customer. So with a need customer, they don't want to be there. They have an event, and typically with dudes like us, we're procrastinators. So we have an event this weekend, so we need something quickly. I can get somebody in and out of the store in 12 minutes. It takes longer now because I have barcodes and I've got to scan. But when I had like the Casio lemonade stand cash register that you could click the deal underneath, I could get somebody out in 8 to 10 minutes, and they freaked out. But the idea of knowing your customer, knowing that they don't want to be there, knowing that they're an uneducated suit-wearing customer, not an uneducated customer, but uneducated in the suit realm, gives me an opportunity to shine, right? What do you have coming up? What do you have in your closet? When is it? Who are you going with? So I'm building this look. New hires that I train, the first thing they say is, man, you asked a lot of questions, but the customer really didn't have any opinions other than yes or no. And when you're helping somebody that is uneducated in that field, I don't try to make the decisions for them, but I all but make the decisions for them, right? And when you do that, you don't hear no, you don't hear yeah buts. They trust you, right? And they know that we talked about earlier, like people that say, man, you're a great salesman. I don't take that as a compliment because frankly, I don't care if you buy it anyway. If you are going to buy it, it's going to fit you like this. It's going to be versatile. And somebody's going to say, wow, holy crap, Tanner, you look unbelievable. Yeah, and then guess what you're going to say? Dude, I went to Nick's Menswear. I was in and out in 12 minutes. I spent $500 on this suit. It's the best experience I've ever had. That's how my business has blown up, not by spending money on marketing. It's by creating these experiences in store like you do, I know, for your clients that they can't help. They're forced to bring your name up in conversation.
Yeah, the referral piece is really cool because, again, people say, hey, I really like the suit. I actually was wearing the blue one that you guys got me, and I didn't even have the coat on. Just had the pants. And my CEO came up to me and was like, hey, I love those pants. Guess what? Because the experience in shopping with you guys was good, I'm now not, like, I'm almost forced or like, hey, thank you very much. But the reason that you're giving me this compliment is Nick's Menswear. Like, the experience, you go into this back room and you have, like, the experience, the personal relationships that you guys build out of it is exactly what makes that experience so great. You talk a little bit about one of your philosophies, again, is people.
Yeah.
And right now, most of our audience is young college kids, young professionals.
Yeah.
They're looking for jobs entry level. How do you train your people, which are going to be specifically our listeners right now coming out? Like, what do you look for when bringing people on, and how do you train your people?
My partner, as I said, who's also my uncle, we talk about this every day, and it is very difficult in this business to train people to the highest level. It's pretty easy to train a guy or girl that comes in for a suit that has a need. That's pretty easy, right? Hey, what brings you, like, so I think, I don't know if I told you this. So we ask these questions, right? These qualifying questions when somebody comes in. And the initial question that I train everybody day one is, what do you have coming up? WD, I told you, remember the WWJD bracelets? I made these bracelets as WDYCHU question mark because it's that important. So when somebody walks in our 5 locations, hey, what brings you in? No matter what they say, great, what do you have coming up? And they're going to tell you. So when they say, oh, I need a suit, great, what do you have coming up? My staff, even day 2, can perform at a very high level when somebody has a need and our job is to fulfill that need. When somebody doesn't have a need or says I'm just looking or says I need a bow tie for it. Let's go down this road. And this is, I didn't know this when I was 22, right? I did not know this when I was 22. I knew some of this when I was 20. I did not know this part of when I was 22. So in my business, I don't know how you can relate it to yours, but I think some of the listeners will take something from this. Is a guy comes in and says, or girl, right? Doesn't matter. Hey, I need a bow tie. Okay? Well, let's say we were at just a big box retail store, right? Hey, I need a bow tie. A level 6 or 7 at a big box retail store. Yeah, well, I've got, what color bow tie do you need? I need a blue bow tie. Well, here's my blue bow ties. I've got a royal blue. I've got a light blue. I've got a denim. My name's Josh. Let me know if you have any questions, right? And you would think as a customer, not bad.
Thanks.
Right? Thanks. Thanks. I don't need, right? You come into an menswear store, right? Hey, what brings you in? I need a blue bow tie. Great. What do you have coming up? It's my wife and I's 3rd anniversary. Awesome, man. Congratulations. What's your name?
Tanner.
Hey, Tanner, Josh. Pleasure to meet you. When's the event? It's on Friday. Where are you guys going? We're going to Vegas. We got tickets to a show. Does your wife do you know what she's wearing? Yeah, she's wearing a silver glittery dress. And Tanner, what are you wearing? Right, so let's cut role play.
Yeah.
Have I addressed the blue bow tie yet?
No.
I'm not going to address the blue bow tie yet until I get until I can fill my cup with the story of this individual. Right? I get you. Like, this is what gets me going, is serving a purpose. I don't get excited. Oh man, I'm going to sell him a 600. I don't even care about that. I care that this guy's going to look so good for his first anniversary. And guess what I get out of the deal? I get referrals,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I get a lifelong customer and probably a friend because I'm not doing what the customer asked. The customer asked, "Show me what do you have? I need a bow tie." I'm not doing what the customer asks, right? Which is when you talk to somebody, let's say fresh out of college or in college, because I'd say 40% of my staff is in college. This is impossible for them to grasp. They're used to saying yes. They're used to doing what the person or the customer asks. I train them to do the opposite. Now, I don't do it rudely. I don't brush them off and say, no, I don't have. I skirt around it because, and this is the big takeaway, I think, is a bow tie is part of a package. I'm not going to the part of the package until I address the whole package, right? And I'm sure you can use it in your business. You can use it in a lot of businesses, but I'm dismissing short term what the customer's asking for, and I will bring it around full circle. Now, if Tanner's got this awesome outfit and he shows me pictures and he's got shoes, he's got socks, and he's got belt, he's got everything else, well, let's go look at the bow ties, Tanner, right? But I wouldn't, and I say this to customers all the time. Like Tanner says, I got a shirt in the closet. Well, listen, Tanner, you told me you haven't bought a suit in 6 years. I wouldn't be doing my job. I laugh, kind of. I wouldn't be doing my job if I at least didn't show you the hottest combinations with this new suit you're buying, right? You certainly don't buy a new car with used tires, right? Laugh, laugh, laugh.
Yep.
So what's the worst that can happen, right? But that's what I think. New people, in these college individuals, they're thinking about today and right now versus a holistic approach to either how do I add the most value or how do I serve this client or customer to the best of my ability.
And from what you're telling me, it sounds like you're the expert. First of all, you're the expert, right? And in everything that you do, it's like going into, I think a lot of people can relate to a doctor's office. I go into the doctor's office and be like, hey, I have a sore throat. And they're like, okay, here's a couple cough medicines, like, have a good day. Yeah. No, their job is to prescribe exactly what brought you in and understand the entire picture. So they ask you a couple questions. They get to know, hey, if your throat's hurting, like maybe there's a lump in your throat. Okay, maybe now we need to go down this path, right? And at the end of the day, they're not going to you at the end of the, like, okay, here. So I got all these questions answered. Right. I got a pretty good idea. You have this big lump in your throat. I think you should do this, but what do you want? Yeah, like, what? No, that doesn't make any sense at all.
I love it. And what you're saying, and I've never thought about it this way. I've thought about the doctor, right? He's an expert, right? He's prescribing you something. But before he prescribes you something, he has to diagnose the problem.
Got to diagnose it.
Right? So, and I see that maybe being a problem today in my store, not only in my stores, but in, think of the last time you've had unbelievable service. Other than a 5-star restaurant, when's the last time you've had fantastic service in 10 seconds that you could tell me about? I think it'd be pretty difficult. That is for most people.
Yeah.
Right. So we diagnose the problem first, provide value, and then provide a solution. And that kind of mindset and those 3 steps lead to referrals and lead to exceptional customer service and just great interactions. Like the fact is I work in a mall, right? But it's so much more than that, right? It's so much more than that. It's you're dressing this guy or this girl for one of the most important days of their life. Right? I take it very seriously. It's not just about I sell suits. It's not about that, right? It's about taking care of the customer to the highest ability, building a relationship, and good things will happen, right? I don't even we didn't talk about this. I don't set sales goals for my team. Because if you
interesting. I bet you we don't hear that a lot from CEOs. Tell me more. That's very interesting.
Yeah, no, and people don't like it. The staff doesn't like it. People that I talk to think I'm nuts for not setting sales goals. And the reason I don't do it is, a few reasons, right? In your business too, is let's say you have a killer year, okay? I killed it this year. I had a killer sales year. I blew all my numbers away, okay? What happens for next year? What does corporate do?
Take whatever number you hit and increase it by 10 or 12%.
Absolutely. And to me, it doesn't make any sense, right? Because one, I could coast at the end of the year because I don't want to sell too much because now my goal is going to be too difficult, right? Do I want to have that mindset for an employee? I don't want to have that mindset for an employee. Number 2 is, like in my business, if you worked at one of my stores, you have very little to no effect on who walks into your store that day.
Fair.
Right? Now you have a lot of effect of what happens when that individual is within your 4 walls. Right? But I want them to sell without an agenda. I want them to be conversationalists. And we going back to your point of, talking to these, if I was in college or if I was with college kids right now, is because they have an agenda, right? Not just them. A lot of people have an agenda to sell. I have to hit my numbers. I have to. It comes across in the pitch.
Yeah.
It comes across whether you want to admit it or not. To me, it comes across in the pitch. I don't care if they buy it or not, Tim. I really don't. But if they're going to buy it, I want them to do what I'm asking them to do, which is get the correct color at the right fit, right? Buying, not selling them more, being in the right outfit for whatever event they're going to. Um, and I might, I'm not putting everybody in $1,000 suit. I'm not putting everybody in a $200 suit, but I'm asking the right questions of what is the right for this individual. So to me, if you have the right conversations, the sales numbers will come. I don't need to set a goal for you. The other thing is I want individuals who want to take care of the customer and who want to do well, but not just, not just sell something to somebody.
You have a very vast skill set. But it wasn't always like that.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about, let's take a step back.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you started.
Yeah.
And then once you got to Nick's Menswear, like, where'd you start from there?
Yeah. So, I think I told you my grandfather started men's clothing stores in 1962. My dad was in it. My uncle was in it. My uncle and aunt opened Nick's Menswear in 2009. I was playing college golf at the University of North Dakota, and I was dating my longtime high school girlfriend, and we went to school together, and we broke up in the Christmas of 1996. Okay, shows how old I am. And I'm like, I was in Grand Forks, North Dakota. It's the coldest place in the country.
Yeah, I was gonna say college golf in North Dakota can't be like,
right.
the
season
best,
was like
best seasons
4
in
days
the
long.
world.
Yeah, no, it's brutal. So I'm like, I have to get the hell out of here. And this actually comes full circle. I don't think you know this story. So I told my parents, I'm like, hey, I want to get out of here. This is, I think, when the internet just came about.
Okay.
Right. So it was America Online, and I remember trying to come up with a plan for my life because I made the decision I was going to leave school, and I found this school in Arizona called at that time I think it was called the SDGA, which was the San Diego Golf Academy, in the Arizona campus. Right, it was in Chandler at San Marcos Golf Course. San Marcos is, I think, the oldest golf course in Arizona.
Okay.
And so I did some research, and I'm going to go to golf school. Right, I played high school golf. I played college golf. I was a decent player. Wasn't fantastic. Didn't know much about the golf swing. I was just a decent player. So I moved here January. My grandmother lived at Gainey Ranch in Scottsdale, and I didn't know a soul here. I moved down here and lived with her. But my family and I had been coming to Scottsdale for years because my grandfather and grandmother had a place at Gainey Ranch. They were Suns ticket holders from like 1982 to till my grandfather died like in 1993.
Okay.
So I'd come down and go to Suns games. Was a huge Suns fan. So the fact that we're now clothing partners with the Suns is like my grandfather would just freak out.
That's crazy. I remember having that conversation originally with your uncle too.
Yeah,
Just be like,
yeah.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah,
this
no,
is wild.
it's so cool. So I came down here and went to golf school. It was an 18-month school. Learned to teach. Learned about club fitting. Played professionally for a little bit, but I got into instruction, and I was still am, really gifted at instruction. Whether I don't have much patience. I wasn't great with beginners, but I'm great with people that are good. I had the opportunity to work with some of the best players in the world on their equipment and on their swing, and I just loved it. And I met my now wife February 21st, 2011. I was still in the golf business. I met this girl and I spent some time with her. I'm like, I'm going to marry this girl. I never knew I wanted kids before. I'm like, I would have kids with this girl, and I'm making $50,000 a year, and I killed it. Right.
Yep.
So I'm like, and I wasn't playing any golf because it was my job. So I hated golf at the time, and I'm like, I've got to get my stuff together. Right. And I met with my aunt and uncle and said, hey, I want to get out of the golf business. And he said, I'm going to pay you. He thought I was this spoiled little snot kid from high school, and I'm going to pay you less than you've ever made, and you got to prove to me that you want it. So I started on the floor of a highly Hispanic mall, Arizona Mills, working 7 days a week on the floor. I taught myself Spanish. And I taught myself, he spent an hour and a half with me training and goes, okay, you got it.
Go.
And,
Just go.
yeah. And then, fast forward to today, I'm part owner in the company. We've got 5 stores and it's a massive business. But what I learned is when I helped somebody in golf, I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I didn't know, again, I didn't read sales books. I didn't have mentors. I just, some of it I think is in my blood. My grandfather was the same way. My dad was the same way. And I tell people this is you can build rapport, and you do it too. You can build rapport a few different ways, and we've talked about this. You can build it by having a charming personality, which you do. You can build it by providing a bunch of value, which you do. And you can do it by having a ton of product knowledge, right? And knowledge in your space, which you do. Now, you can get it done with 1 out of the 3 or 2 out of the 3, but 3 out of the 3, if you can do it with the 3, you're at level 11, right? And when I was a golf pro, I did the same thing. I didn't say, what do you think? I said, hey, here's the problem. This is what it's going to take to fix it. Do you want to commit to that? If not, I'm not your guy. And I was, now knowing what it is, and you hear businesses talk about this, it was radical transparency.
Oh,
Radical transparency is I'm going to tell you this, Tanner, not to hurt your feelings, not to make you feel bad, but I owe it to you as a trusted advisor to shoot you straight. And you can internalize it and you can do whatever you want with it, but here's the facts.
Yep.
And I do the same thing today. Listen, I get let's say a 60-year-old African-American guy who's been wearing suits for 30 years and he wants the big baggy look. Listen, you can wear whatever you want. But my job, Tanner, is to make you look great. And more importantly, make you look like you bought a new suit.
Yep.
Now, nobody's telling this guy this, right? Nobody's being radically transparent with this guy. And it's so refreshing. And to me, I've heard you say before, I don't care what people think of me. I don't either. I could care less what you think of me. I care what you think of my brand and my business, but I don't care what you think of me. And in 20 years, I can't recall a time where somebody said, you know what, that really offends me. I really can't. So I think that's what I learned. Doesn't matter if it's golf club. It doesn't matter if it's suits. It doesn't matter if it's high level VIP clients you're taking care of. This concept of radical transparency works.
So I had a guy who we helped get a job through Attitude Effort Results and through my partner Hunter and I helped him get a job in the sports industry. And I was like, hey, can you provide a testimonial? Obviously, I want my people telling others about my brand, not me telling them, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole referral thing we walked down the first time. And I said, hey, can you create a testimonial? He said, yeah, I would love to. He said one thing. He said, Tanner's very blunt, and I love that. And I had never heard somebody tell me that I was blunt. That's who I am. But it was so impactful for him that's what he alluded to right away. And now thinking back and being, very transparent, there's just not a lot of people today that are like that. People want their, they don't want their feelings hurt or they want people to like them. I don't care if you like me. I just don't. I want to provide the best service for you and give you the most value. And if I can do that, and at the end of the day, you don't like me, but I got you where you wanted to be, cool. Sounds like a plan. Let's do that. There's one piece in there that you talked about that really intrigues me. When you were a golf pro, you're making $50K.
Yeah.
You said that you could not grow any further in that business or in that sector with the knowledge that you had gained from there.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So tell me a little bit about stepping outside of that to then go gain more knowledge. This has nothing to do with golf versus suits or anything. It's the knowledge gain. Walk me through that. It is so intriguing.
Yeah, so, I tell people today that if I was to go back and get in the golf business, I would be very successful at it knowing what I know today. And it's not that I do things that differently today, because I did a lot of those things back when I was 22, 23. But knowing the effect now that it has on individuals and on referrals and how business works, it would just be a total game changer because I didn't know then what I know now. And then the idea of thinking outside the box is, consultants are a big deal today, right? We have these consultants coming in, they're going to take an overall look at the business and then provide it's like, you ever seen Office Space?
Yeah.
Right? We're going to hire the Bobs, right? The Bobs are going to come in and do a deep dive in your company, and they're going to spend 6 months interviewing everybody, and then they're going to present at the end. Well, the consultants are good because it's getting an outside look of your business, but I try to put my non-owner glasses on to see what's really going on. And I would have done that. I didn't do that in the golf business. So I just got up and I went through the motions each day. I got 6 lessons on my book today. Okay, this is what I'm doing after work. I'm going to the gym or whatever I'm doing, and I'm going to get up and I'm going to do it again. I didn't think about how to grow the business. I thought about taking care of the existing business, right? I didn't think, okay, well, how do I get to the next level? Because nobody else was doing it, right? When we opened Nick's Menswear in 2009, every single vendor said, you cannot make it selling suits in Arizona. It's too hot. Nobody wears suits. And guess what? They were right. If we were going after the businessman who's wearing suits every day, we would have been gone long ago. But we were going after Tanner was again, a need customer versus a want customer. There's a new one every day. There's a new one every single day. And then once you have this market, well, then how can I branch out? How can I get the guy? And that's when you have different product offerings. That's when we redid our stores from a warehouse type feel at a 2,500 square foot store to now 5,500 square foot stores, and having a private custom room, speakeasy custom room with a full bar. Is you grow, you learn, you grow, you change your model, and you don't get stuck to one thing. And if I've done some things that have not been successful, I didn't dwell on them. I cut my losses and said, we're not doing this anymore, right? And when I was a golf pro, I went through the motions, right? And I made 50 grand, and that's just how much a golf pro makes.
That's awesome.
I would do it differently today.
I say this very humbly. I grew up in a very probably lower middle class household. The saying of, well, that's just what this makes. Whether it's a dentist or a pharmacist or whatever it is, it's like, well, like that's just what an accountant makes. We make $70K and we work 80 hours a week, and that's just what we do. How about we think a little bit outside the box, a little bit, right? The outside the box that you just said, I'm gonna first of all replay that 100 times myself, and then we're gonna clip and it's gonna go viral. But other than that. You talked about thinking outside the box of like, hey, we're not here just to sell suits. It's Arizona. It's hot as hell. Like, why would people buy suits? Think outside the box a little bit. You have a brand that is fully online in some capacity. Tell us a little bit where that idea came from. Yeah. I didn't even think we were going to go here, but you sparked my head of like, you talk about selling suits in Arizona and thinking outside the box. This is one of those ideas.
So when you talk about, I forget how you worded it, but it was great. But you felt like I was, when I was a golfer, I was boxed in, or I had hit the ceiling.
Yep.
Is that what you said?
Yep.
Right. You hit the ceiling in business as well, right? And you can either be, so now I'm 47 years old. My business partner's 62. He was playing golf 6 days a week, and the stores were running like clockwork. And so back up to, I told you I met my wife, right?
Yep.
And it just flipped a switch in me.
Crazy how it does that.
Yeah. Yeah. It actually gets me emotional just talking about it. Like, I mean, because I remember it so vividly.
Wow.
So I met my wife, and a beast was born. Yeah. And, man, I don't know why this gets me emotional. And when I started at Nick's, I know you're a journal guy. I'm not a journal guy. I had never journaled in my entire life. I didn't know what journaling was. But when I started at Nick's, I remember thinking, man, this is the first time that you've really had a massive opportunity. And I had these sticky notes. And I wrote down every single day on these sticky notes I put in my mirror. I said, be so good at everything that nobody can say anything. Yeah.
Say that again.
Be so good at everything that nobody can say anything. And because I started as a sales associate on the floor, making $15,000 less a year than I was making as a golf pro, because my uncle wanted to prove a point to me. So what this meant to me, be so good at everything that nobody can say anything, was I'm going to be the best at cleaning the floor. I'm going to be the best at scrubbing the toilets. I'm going to be the best at straightening suits. I'm going to be the best at everything. So when I move up as rapidly in this company, nobody is surprised. When I'm an owner in 5 years, nobody's going to be surprised. And that's what meeting my wife did. And then I had kids, and that's just a whole nother level, right? Is I had this burning desire to succeed, not to make money. It wasn't about making money. It was to succeed, right? And success looks different. Success is different for different people, right? Success to me is not really having a nice house or nice. Do I have those things? Yeah, it's great, right? I love it. I'm very thankful for it. This morning I woke up and I'm like, man, I'm really blessed, right? But that's not what drove me. It was providing for my wife, who I knew wanted to stay home with our kids. And it was just a whole different mindset. So moving up rapidly and ending up where I got to, did I have luck along the way? Yes. But you really, you can make your own luck. I don't even remember where we started with this.
It's so good. Keep going.
So I literally, what did you ask me? I don't even remember what you asked me.
Honestly, we went down a great path. I'm not sure.
So I think what I didn't know about then that I know about now is I didn't have a why then. I just didn't have a why. My why was going through the motion so I could pay my bills. Right? I remember I made $2,000 a month. My bills were about $1,800. I couldn't. I remember that like it was yesterday. But when I had a why, right? When I was provided a why, and then that why lit me on fire, it changed the whole trajectory of my life. It really did, business wise.
Have you read the book Start With Why?
I don't read books.
You just took a chapter out of that book and just said it out loud. That's why
I shouldn't say I don't read books. I listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
And I watch shorts.
Okay.
But my attention span is like that.
Yeah.
And I have read some books. I have not read it or heard of that book.
You basically just like took a chapter and summarized it. So the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek, one of the best communicators in the world, right?
Yeah.
And I read that when I was in Washington, D.C. in 2019 when I started my career. Also had no why. Also had this idea of, well, that's just what I make. Like, hopefully, and again, I say this with a ton of humility and respect for the way that I grew up, and if I could grow up a different way, I would not. I would grow up the exact same way. But my parents my dad just retired, and he's still lower income, middle class. That's just how it was. I'm just like, that's just what it is. Right. You work and you retire. Yeah. But Start With Why gave me a deeper reason, exactly what you just said, of like, what do I want with life? And what does success mean? I went home to North Carolina to go see Callie's family, and they were like, hey, how was the last year, right? It was the first week of January. Yeah. And they're like, oh, how was the last year? And I was like, great. It was the most successful year we've had. And they're like, cool. Like, how much did you make? I said, no, that's not what I said. I said it was the most successful year. Success means that me and my wife got married, so it was one of the happiest years of my life. We grew spiritually. That's important. We're both growing personally. That's important, right? The why behind why we do things. My wife has the biggest servant heart in the world. There's a why behind everything she does. There's a why behind everything that we do. And that's what you mentioned also. And I think based off what you're telling me, you probably feel the same way of people, especially our audience today. You have to have a reason of why you're doing things. Otherwise, you just go through the motions, and like there's no creative thoughts. There's no thinking outside the box. There's no moving the needle and becoming more successful. So to start with why, I didn't know we were going there today. That is incredible. What is one thing that you would have asked yourself if you were sitting in my chair today?
What would I have asked myself today?
Yeah. If you're sitting in my chair right now? Yeah. What's one thing that you would ask yourself?
I think because of who we're hopefully talking to, is, and I meet people. I meet college age people weekly. I meet a lot of people every week, and I think what I would ask me, based on who your demo is what am I doing wrong?
Love it. Tell me about your failures.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. What am I doing wrong? Right. First of all, how did I fail? What's my biggest business failure or personal failure? And then from a outsider's perspective is, why aren't they getting callbacks on interviews? Why do they get rejected every time they go into an interview? Why are these certain things continuing to happen to me? Right? It's the mindset of, well, I'm a good basketball player, but I'm not getting playing time because the coach doesn't like me mentality. And I think it's a toxic mentality. And unfortunately, I see it every freaking day, is the lack of accountability and ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And really what that means, right? I'll tell you a large failure of mine, right? It's a fairly quick story. So prom is big for us, right? We sell versus rent, and we have since 2009, and people would rather own it for around the same price as rentals, right? So
Sure.
last year in Arizona, we sold about 5,000 suits to high school kids, right? For $250, they get the jacket, pants, vest, shirt, tie, and hanky, and they own it, right? They don't have to bring it back the next day. So, I only have 5 stores, and Arizona is massive, right? There's 7 million people in the Phoenix metro, but how about Flagstaff, and how about Prescott, and how about Payson, and places outside of Phoenix that are underserved, that still have needs, right? And we partnered with this organization that runs the local student council. So I'm like, and I went one day, I grabbed a couple of my people that work for me. I said, hey, we're going to load up a box truck. We're going to bring suits, and we're going to go to Flagstaff High School. We're going to set up in their gym. And we're going to sell them suits for prom, right? And I sold 53 suits that day.
Wow.
In 3 hours, right? I brought them back to Phoenix. I had them tailored, and then I shipped them to the people.
Wow.
I'm like, parents were there, students were there. Flagstaff High is not a very big school. I'm like, this is genius, right? So Mitch and I, my partner and I, were like, we're gonna build this custom suit shop on wheels.
Okay.
Okay. So we bought, I think it was a 33-foot trailer, like a toy hauler,
Okay.
right? And we decked it. It was a mobile suit store. I've had 500 suits in there. I had a table with all my drawers with my ties, and I bought a diesel truck because I needed a diesel truck to pull this 32-foot toy hauler around. And we made this schedule where we'll go today. We're gonna follow this schedule. We're gonna go, and we're gonna deliver suits. We're gonna fit, Payson, Prescott, all these different places with suits. And we did it for a year. I think I paid 50 grand for the toy hauler. I think I paid 30 grand for the truck. I think I was in for 80 grand. And I think year one, probably made $63,000. And Mitch and I are like, this isn't worth it, right?
The numbers aren't numbering.
Right. So we didn't dwell on it, right? We lost a couple, maybe lost 20 grand. And we sold the trailer, and we sold the truck, and moved on with our life. But we certainly didn't dwell on it. Yeah. Could we have made it work? Yes, but what it would have taken to make it work wasn't worth it.
Time.
Right? Yeah, it wasn't worth the time. Yeah. Absolutely. And then we talked about the accountability. What did I learn, and how did I play a part in this failure or in these shortcomings? And any issue in my business, I say the same thing. It's my fault. It's my fault. It's my fault. Why did this person, Tanner, worked with this customer? He didn't say the right thing. Well, that's my fault. I didn't provide the resources to have him not say that, right? And I think that is what I am not seeing with the crop of individuals who are looking for jobs today or in the workforce. Well, yeah, but that wasn't my job. Or I did this, and whatever. It's just passing the buck, and it's passing the buck every day, even in my company, right? And it's maddening because there's no ownership. So now you have to have documentation, and you have to do all this corporate stuff that I don't want to do, right? I want ownership and accountability, and I think that is super important.
You talk about accountability. Are you open to telling the inauguration story?
Sure.
So this one,
I'll tell you a different story.
Okay.
I'll tell
so
you.
Talk about accountability. Give me a story about accountability.
Yeah. I don't want to go down the inauguration.
That's fair.
Because they're still pissed about it, and they could see this. So I'll tell you another story about accountability. Obviously, when your business is growing, right, or your personal brand is growing, there's lots of good opportunities, and there's also opportunities to make more mistakes, right? Even if you have buttoned up processes, there's opportunity to make mistakes. And I am human, we are human, you're human, we are going to make mistakes. And I think you can really define yourself and your brand, personal brand and business brand, by how you react to these mistakes. And this was an issue. This was a wedding. It wasn't 3 years ago. It was probably 2 years ago. I get an email or a call on Monday morning and said, "Hey, Josh, this is Sarah. We got our suits from Nick's Menswear. You ruined my wedding. Tanner was in a blue suit and everybody else was in gray suits. The photographers was there. He's in a completely different suit. You shipped him the wrong suit. And this is Monday and the wedding was on Saturday."
So it already happened.
Already happened.
You can't do anything about it.
Spent $2,000 in your store, had 8 groomsmen. Tanner's a groomsman. He's in a different color suit than everybody else. And it's like, okay, so what do you do?
Yeah.
And I'd never been presented this scenario. So a sorry isn't good enough. So I went down the road of, okay, first of all, I figured out what happened, how I could fix it for next time. And then I called her back and I said, "Sarah, this is what I can do for you. First of all, I can't change the past. If I could, I would. It's Monday. Your wedding was on Saturday. I can't change the fact that we dropped the ball and sent you the wrong color suit. I'll own that, and for that, I'm terribly sorry. What I can do is this, is I can either refund every guy's suit to them, or I can cut you and Jake a check for $2,100, which is what you spent in my store, and I can give that to you as an apology. The other thing I can do for you is, obviously we've been in the wedding business a long time. I know a lot of photographers. I'm very confident that I have a photographer that can retouch your photos and color correct that blue suit to a gray suit. So at least your photos will all be uniform, and I'm happy to do that." She starts crying.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Right? She starts crying. "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you would do that." Right? This is talking to the guy that owns the company. I'm going to make it right one way or another. And you can't, some people, there's nothing you can do. But I'm going to at least try my hardest. And I didn't say, well, maybe she's overreacting. I said, if I was this person, I would be livid. What could somebody else do to me that would at least soften the blow for them ruining my wedding? And in this case, it was a $2,100 check and my team color correcting her wedding photos. And it worked. And they're still customers today. And now when somebody says, "Hey, Tanner, have you heard of Nick's Menswear?" Like they would say to Sarah, it's not, "Yeah, they ruined my wedding." It's, "Yeah, they actually messed up, but guess what? Here's what they did to fix it."
Yep.
Right? So you have an opportunity to not only earn a customer, but it's the story that's going to resonate with all their friends and family. And that's, that happens a lot. Unfortunately, mistakes happen. And every single one, we just try to fix it, right? If you ask any one of my staff today, what's the culture here if there's a problem? It's fix it. Not point blame, just fix the problem. Whatever it takes. I don't care what it takes. You just fix the problem.
Yeah. I love it. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time, your value this morning. Again, it took us a little bit longer to get going today, but thank you for coming here with us. Anything that you'd like to leave everybody with today?
Just that I would do what others aren't willing to do, right? I would provide value without asking for anything in return. I'd say if there's something that you want to do, if there's a job you want, or if there's somebody that you really look up to, is you reach out to that person either on LinkedIn, text, or get a personal introduction and say, "Tanner, hey, I see what you're doing. I am 100% bought in. I'd like to help you any way that you want. You don't have to pay me. I would just like to be around you and add any value I can."
Create value.
Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing, is not what can they do for me, but what can I do for them, right? It's not networking, it's building relationships. And I think that will help. I think it will help a lot of people.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, I appreciate you again. Attitude for Results team, I appreciate you. I hope that you have a wonderful day. Let's continue to inspire others and grow together.